how is it just one
It was-
episode or is it multiple?
I think it's like 3 episodes,
Okay.
but it's really good.
Alright. What else? Any other good shows out? Recommendations? Yeah, Tim.
I watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary because I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. And I was curious, and I thought it was interesting.
Did you learn anything new that you didn't already know?
A lot of the documentary centers around his last few seasons, where either he hasn't been as good or he's been hurt, and then it talks a lot about ayahuasca in it, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Was he on ayahuasca?
Yeah, he went. They showed him like going on a trip to take
Central America,
ayahuasca.
South America.
Yeah.
Interesting. Alright, I gotta check it out. Is that just one part?
3 parts. I think they're each about like 40 minutes to an hour.
Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Chapter 6. I don't know how we got confused last class and not talking about the South. I realized chapter 6 is about attitudes, right? Consumer attitudes and how as marketers we are able to possibly change attitudes. Hey, what's an attitude? How would you describe an attitude? What is an attitude to you? Yes.
A behavior.
Okay. Attitude is behavior, right? It's actions about something, characteristics, body language, speech, something. Anyone else? You have a particular attitude about something. What does that mean to you? Attitude. How could you change it? How can you change someone's attitude? Are attitudes part of our personality? Are they like personality characteristics? Are they features of a personality? What do you think?
I agree that it's a part of your personality, your attitude. It's kind of like your outtake on life in a way.
Yeah, possibly you could say, hey man, you met some angry people. Well, they're angry about everything, right? Or you meet moody people. You're like, oh, they're always in a mood. Their mood is unpredictable. Or they're up and down, up and down. Attitude, you're like, oh man, that person has a particular friendliness. They have a friendly attitude. They're approachable, right? They're nice. Other people have an attitude of seriousness, right? Other people have a judgmental attitude. Like, they're always judging people, right? Very judging, evaluating everything, themselves and others. Right, so we say attitudes could be features of a personality, characteristics, their behaviors, absolutely, right? But how can we go about shifting that? Right? Because maybe that attitudes are not permanent. Maybe they're partially genetic, partially environmental, right? Maybe someone has a poor attitude because of their situation, because of their state of mind, because of their environment, because of their lack of information or education about something, right? Have an attitude of ignorance, right? All sorts of reasons. But we as marketers want to understand that behavior and be able to change it. Use some sort of crafty ways to change the behavior. So in this chapter, we'll explain the functions and components of attitudes, the ways in which we form them, right? Explain how persuasion is an active attempt to create or change attitudes. Every time we read something, right, we think of, we have this sort of field called semiotics, where we analyze all the communications, symbols, and meaning. Every time you read something, when someone writes something, you read it, they're trying to convince you of something, right? They're trying to persuade your attitude about something. They're trying to reinforce it, right? Maybe you already agree with it. They want to reinforce you to have a stronger opinion or attitude about something. Or they try to persuade you on the opposite end, right? They're trying to convey a method to get you to change your mind about something, right? Change your opinion about something. So we'll talk about persuasion and how we attempt to create and change attitudes, and then we'll discuss the ways in which the source, the message, and the medium are used to craft persuasion strategies, right? So we need a message, we need a medium. Message could be verbal, it could be typed, right? It could be commercial just with images, no sound, right? It could be something you wrote. You need a medium. You need a hand, you need a pen, a pencil, you need technology, you need a screen, right? You need different mediums, different channels, internet, social media, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so attitude, the chapter describes it as a lasting general evaluation of people, objects, advertisements, or issue, right? So we are evaluating people constantly, we're evaluating objects. Right? Hey, ooh, that got my attention. Ooh, that means nothing to me. I didn't pay attention to that. Who cares, right? So we evaluate people. We notice certain people. Other people walk right past them, like care less. What makes us notice one person versus the next person, right? We focus our attention on certain objects, certain advertisements, or certain issues. You know, the university has to, you know, they kind of reinvigorated their marketing campaign, maybe over a year ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And they started with the banners around the university, right, with the students on it, and the messaging, right? And they kind of revamped their website a little bit, added a little bit of new stuff. So they're like, hey, the university is trying to alter an attitude about the university. Maybe there's a perception of it previously, and they're like, oh, we need new marketing to what's the new message? How can we convince people that we're such and such university, that we're great at this, and this is our principles, and this is blah, blah, blah. Do you think that has influenced you one bit on your perspective of the university? So they spend a lot of money on this. Like you walk in the hallways, you see new banners, the students on them with some messaging, right? People dress a certain way to convey a message, ethnic groups, right? I don't know. What do you think? Or you're like, oh, highly irrelevant. I never even pay attention to it. Who cares? What are your thoughts? What is your attitude towards university? Then and now, yes.
I just think it brings like a different perspective of how the university wants like new students to perceive the environment here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like stand tall, like, you know, feel comfortable with speaking your mind if you want to speak your mind. You know what?
Yeah, think about that. You're like, well, okay, maybe we had an issue. What's the issue? Oh, Lutheran University, right? Maybe people think, oh man, I can't really speak my mind too much. Might go against the model, the mission, the principles of the university, right? On the outside, you might think that. Like, hey, I've never been to Lutheran school, but my attitude towards whatever kind of religious school would be like, you know, you gotta tread on thin ice. And so maybe the university's like, no, you don't have to tread on thin ice here. You can talk, you can express yourself. We don't care your different religious belief. Maybe there's even an ethnic component to Lutheranism. Like, you know, maybe it's likely perceived as more white, right? You know, like, hey, maybe we need to add a little bit more ethnic groups to the banners so that we feel more inclusive to the degree. Change the attitude, right? Change the perception and attitude about the university to feel included. But at the same time, the university had to retain its principles too. Like, hey, we are Lutheran University, right? It does have principles, right? It is funded and aided by the synod, right? The Lutheran synod. So it has to retain that. So we're like, hey, in one part, you like, there's a huge emphasis on making sure that Christ is at the center of the principles of the university. At another component, you say we want to have an attitude of inclusion, to be able for people to feel free to speak out. So we're not sort of pigeonholing people. That could dissuade people from even enrolling or applying for the university. All right, then we have an attitude object, anything towards which one has an attitude. All these different things. People, objects, advertisements, and issues. All Alright, so here's a model of persuasion. Right? You meet somebody, you go out on a date. So you go out on a date. You're like, ooh. Right? You text back and forth, you pick up plays. And before you ask all the stupid questions, what's your favorite color? What book are you reading? Netflix shows you, right? And then you're like, oh, we gotta pick a place. Why? So that I could persuade this person, right? So that you could persuade them for what means, for what ends, right? Whatever the means and ends that you want, right? Whatever goal is your objective. And then that person on the receiving end also is persuaded. They're like, hey, wait, hold on. I persuade you that I have my own sort of personality, morals, ethics, or non-negotiables, or things like that, right? They're like, hey, it's an interaction of persuasion. It's a power sort of thing. You know, in psychology, we have something called transactional analysis. And you can kind of see how in every single interaction that you have with a person, something in the dynamics of power is always occurring, which means that truly communication in life is about power, right? The message, even in subtle ways. So we have something called parent-adult-child, which means we either, in a conversation, someone could be speaking as a parent, as an adult, or as a child in an interaction. So for example, you show up late to work, 15 minutes, right? You're new on the job. You show up 15 minutes late to work. Your boss like, hey man, you're 15 minutes late. And like, hey, I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again. This happened. It was traffic. It was this. Like, yeah, hey, make sure that doesn't happen again. In that situation, we say one person speaking as a parent, as an authority figure, another person speaking as a child. It doesn't have to happen that way, right? And so if you're evaluating, analyzing, you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to be a child to someone else, if I'm an adult, right? So what could you do? Hey, don't show up late next time. You're like, hey, right, I showed up late. Don't talk to me like that, right? Your tone of voice, blah, blah, blah. That would be adult sort of power dynamics. Speaking to someone as a mature adult, right? Like, hey, you're right about that fact. You stated the facts. Yeah, sure, I showed up late. But as an adult, don't talk to me, right? So we see that, hey, if you were allowed to have it, you're going to stay in that child position. Your boss will say, interesting. We got somebody that doesn't have a backbone, that doesn't speak up for themselves. Abuse that power. And it's always about power, right? In a relationship, you start to let people get away with saying certain things to you, it'll get worse, right? So you always want to kind of evaluate, what kind of persuasive thing is happening in this interaction, in this message. All right, so we got persuasion, process of forming or changing someone's attitude, right? Trying to guide and navigate their attitude, take control of someone. From there, we have the forms and changes that lead to the attitude. So we said attitudes, the lasting general evaluation of person, brand, product, message, issue, and therefore we have the guides that lead to the behavior, right? We finally get someone who can take a new opinion, take new action on something, purchase something, right? Agree to the message, right? Feel that their issue is resolved, or feel that they have a new issue, right? Think about in politics. Like, this is a classic. Politics is perfect for it, because it's all about messaging out there and persuading people to accept, right? Like, oh, you're stealing all your tax money. And then they're trying to persuade you, read a little bit more. You see how many people agree with that, and finally, like, yeah, you're right. I never thought about that, right? And someone may evaluate the opposite. They're like, no, not necessarily. I don't think that makes sense as a blanket statement, right? So we say, hey, in politics, we're constantly having attitude, right? We're having attitudes towards these positions or these messages crafted by a very, very deceptive Alright, what's the process in persuasiveness? You can't see it down here for those of you back, so I'll just kind of tell you. Hey, central, slow, rational versus peripheral, right? Fast emotional processes. Think of love bombing, right? So we say love bombing could be kind of peripheral. Someone you come out and you're like, bombard them. First date, here's flowers. Right? First, I would take the greatest restaurant with view of the skyline, right? Order whatever you want. Right? And we'll introduce you to some coworkers and friends. And then right out the gate, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is different. Right? This could be magical. It doesn't allow for rational thought. You're like, wait, hold on, that's a little too soon. Dude. Like, hold on, slow down a little bit, right? Let's figure out who you are. Know nothing about you. Blah, 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 right? Okay, that can be peripheral, right? Fast emotional processes. Or slow and rational. Could be the rational approach would be, the slow approach could be, let's say we're talking about, and you're like, hey, you know what? I had a great time. I know maybe you didn't like the place that we went to. I want to make sure I consider your feelings. I just want to go to somewhere simple, right? Nothing too fancy because I want to get to know you or something like that, right? Rational, that may make sense, and that may be value to you. You're like, oh, this person really seems genuine and authentic. They are going slow. They think that they can persuade through a slower process than a fast love bombardment. We have things like a narrative persuasion, right? Communicative factors. Like creating a narrative. When we say narrative, the best communications happens in stories. Right? We all love a good story. Obviously, like, hey, let me tell you a story when I was in 5th grade. Everybody listen. Right? We love things in stories. So it's always good to have a narrative persuasion. Like, hey, let me tell you a story. You can bond with somebody very quickly through a story. Because that means that you care enough to build up like scenes in their minds and characters and events. It's almost like you're opening and sharing like some deep part of their psyche, which is really good. So you see some advertisements happen with the commercials. It's like a whole entire story, a whole entire sort of plot. Let me see if I can find a YouTube video. I know Nike usually have some really good ones. Oh, by the way, grades, you submitted your grades for all the stuff that needed to be submitted. So check them. If you haven't, or if you're missing some items to submit, just try to get them in as soon as possible. Okay. All right, let's see with this one. Let's just random, I don't know. This one is called Stairs by Nike. What's the message? see the story, you see guy and girl, you probably think like something's weird, they're gonna meet up or something like that, and then it goes off to like, no, you know, they're actually, their body is physically aching because possibly they won the marathon, right? Those are the people who achieve the goal of winning, and they know that winning comes at a cost, right? Winning comes from not being comfortable, right? So winning is not for everybody. All right, and so some other persuasive processes. The source. We don't listen to everybody, right? We have confirmation bias. If you watch Fox News only, good luck trying to, someone trying to persuade you to watch CNN. It's not gonna happen, right? Can't think of all the reasons. Even if it was statistical facts they put up on CNN, you're like, I don't wanna watch that, it's crap, they lie. And if you watch CNN, and someone's like, hey, watch Fox News, they had a really good thing on. And you're like, no, I've never watched that, never, blah, 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 right? Because really you just want to reinforce and confirm your own bias, what you already believe in, right? Lo and behold, if you find new information or new facts, it'll be uncomfortable for you. You human beings don't like discomfort, even to the point of lying. We lie because we don't like discomfort. We kill because we don't like discomfort, right? So there's no sort of limitations to us getting out of our comfort zone, right? We want to confirm what we already believe. So the source matters, right? Somebody that you like, we say call the personality, kind of listen to. If you like Kanye, you like Yeezy, who likes Yeezy? Who likes Kanye? Nobody? But think about it. If you're a Kanye follower, it don't matter what Kanye says or does. Literally, like, it doesn't matter, right? You will listen to him because he's the source that you follow. He's the call of personality. He's the personality that you like, right? No matter what you give him a pass or whatever he's saying. Other people you want to give a pass to. And we say the message counts, the types of appeal. Right? The appeal we saw from Nike was an emotional appeal. Like, hey, do you appeal with people through logic? Right? Do you kind of show them facts, empirical sort of information? Like, some people like that persuasion. Like, give me the facts. Some people like the emotional part. We could put up some starving kids that look like they're from Africa, put the flies on their eyeballs, right? And they're like malnutrition. And then we're like, oh, send the money. Send $5 right now, you'll save this child. Our first emotion is guilt and shame, right? Think about that first, because we can just look, hey, you're gonna send $5, and the person's like, I don't know. In reality, you're like, no, I don't want to send $5, but I'm afraid that other people will judge me. And right? A logical person like, hey, I don't know where the money's going. Let me figure out and find some more information about this company. They're probably still in it, right? Who knows? But another person would be emotional, but oh my God, let me just go ahead and just send that sentiment, right? So different type of appeals. You have to speak to your audience. Some people are emotionally sensitive, others are not. Some people are extremely logical with very little emotion. And then the medium, right? The medium is important. Hey, TikTok might get you more views, more impressions, more things for people to see to put on TikTok or IG, right? Versus another platform. So you have to understand what's the medium. What is it? In one of my earlier classes, we were talking about how Netflix and other platforms are like starting to provide things like the Super Bowl, right? Someone mentioned Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, right? You're like, oh, there's a new medium for things that were traditionally just pay-per-view or network television, right? Like the Super Bowl. Because people are changing, so we're using new mediums, right? To reach new audiences. And then attitude processes, right? Comprise of cognitions and emotions, right? Thinking and feelings. Usually positive or negative and have explicit and implicit elements, right? We say implicit is internal things, your internal thoughts that you kind of keep to yourself, right? We can't mind read. Your internal emotions, or the explicit things, right? Things you outwardly express that we can all kind of see how you feel and how you think. And then that goes over to the guys, from attitudes, change of behavior. You say the link depends on the attitude, commitment, the social content, norms, and social pressure, right? Social pressure is a huge one because we don't like to feel outside of the groups that we belong to. Right? It makes us extremely kind of cowardly to a degree, to where we fold under pressure because of our groups. You know, we may resist speaking out against our religious groups if we feel something wrong has occurred, right? We may feel some sense of social pressure not to speak out, ethnic things, right? Or poverty situations, social economic status, right? Social norms are a very powerful force, right? We all kind of want people to agree on the same stuff. So we have a functional theory of attitudes. One is utilitarian, relates to rewards and punishments. Remember we saw when it comes to thinking, we said operant learning was about positive reinforcements, negative reinforcements, and punishment, right? So in that utilitarian function, you say, hey, it's about rewards and punishment. You get a reward for accepting this message, right? Well, there's an offering that comes with this message. There's something that you could benefit from. There's a benefit to this communication, right? You know, when you meet somebody, if you have, let's think, when you go to an interview, like you are going to start going to interviews at some point amongst a sea of applicants. So you have to try to persuade somebody the benefit of hiring you over everybody else. You have to sell yourself. And you're like, man, that's tricky. How do you sell yourself? You're like, well, if you don't know yourself, that's going to be a hard sell. Right? Anybody, you got to think about yourself, like why you're so awesome, why you're not awesome, whatever the case may be. You're like, well, that's going to be a hard pitch, right? So you got to think about, hey, in some true sense, what benefit do I offer to normal people? Like, hey, what does mom say about it? Mom says this. What is that, right? What does boyfriend, girlfriend say? What do my teachers and professors, right? Well, obviously, there's some benefits that you provide. You don't have to think much about it. And usually it comes from outside of yourself. It's not what you think about you. It's probably the feedback you get from others, right? It's like, hey, my benefits is a strong work ethic. Like, that's the feedback I get, right? Analytical mind, critical thinking, punctuation, showing up on time, right? Able to learn, able to be trained, right? Mental and blah, blah. Or there could be some sort of punishments to not doing something. So that could be sort of the theory of changing attitudes, like, hey, show what will happen if you don't do something. There's some sort of punishment. Value expressive function expresses consumers' values or self-concept. Nifty trick. If you ever meet very psychological individuals or sociopaths, psychopaths, and these people are around us quite a bit. They're leaders. You say any kind of CEO person really at the top of the organization, you gotta have a little bit of sociopathy, which means that you manufacture emotions. They're not real. You don't really have them, but you have a keen awareness that other people have, right? You're aware that other people truly have these emotions and they do react and respond to them. It's a nifty tool. Think about how manipulative, deceptive you can be and get what you want. You can get whatever you want just by understanding that principle, right? And so we could say like, hey, you know what? Bless you. We make an observation and say, hey, man, I see the value in somebody's self-concept, how they feel about themselves. All I gotta do is egg them on to that. Like, wow, you're really great at that. Right? Man, you're wonderful at that. we know immediately that'll boost their self-esteem. Right? Really? They get excited, get happy. It'll change their mood, change their day. Right? My gosh, you look great today. Whoa, look what you're wearing. How'd you look? Nice shoes. Right? Nice hair, nice whatever. Man, you're so smart. You're the smartest person I ever met. Immediately, that changes people's attitudes. That boosts their confidence and everything. Very simple. I'm telling you, try that. Try it maybe today, just to see the reaction you get from somebody. It could be like, it could be random, but then you want to be weird. But maybe somebody you know. See if they respond in a way like, I just made that person happy, right? And you literally change the outcome of their day. Like you literally change their attitude for the day, right? They could have been in a really crappy spot. A few words, a few messages, changing the narrative can lead to that. Ego defensive function, protect ourselves from external threats or internal feelings. We're talking about kind of self-concept. If we're talking things like people's self-esteem, we always say that people are hiding something or defending something, right? There's a position they have that they're really, really strong on, and they want to make sure that you don't knock that wall down. Or they're really guarded, right? They have this shadow that we talked about. Like everybody has like a deep, dark part of their psyche. They don't want nobody to know about, right? But you can kind of, if you're good at it, you can observe to say, hey man, I got a sense of feeling those internal sort of threats. Another part that creates attitudes is a knowledge function, right? We have a need for order, structure, or meaning. Remember say the human mind forces meaning. It forces meaning. You'll create your own meaning out of anything because that's how the mind works, right? Even if it's completely false or absurd. But which means we stereotype and judge each other. It's just a natural anthropological evolutionary phenomenon. We see somebody walking down the street and our mind we have a concept of that type of person, and then we think of that person as a threat or friendly, right? Immediately. Which means we all have what we call implicit bias. So if you ever meet somebody who says, oh, I'm not prejudiced, or blah, 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 you're like, yeah, I mean, it sounds great, but some way evolutionary and anthropologically, we all are about things, right? It doesn't have to be racial, ethnic, it could be like all sorts of things. We're just biased, right? We're biased in so many ways. We're biased on our own belief systems and what's about right and wrong, right? All right, some slow and fast thinking effective components. Before I continue, who has their blurbs? Because I want to make sure I want to have a good time. 1, 2, 3. I get that now. All right, we have 3 people, so maybe I'll go to about 2:05 or so.
Professor, I
Yes.
have something early as well.
Hmm?
That's
Okay, yeah, just get out when you need to. Attitude, slow and fast thinking. The distinction between 2 systems in common in psychology, say type 1 processes are fast, autonomous, and intuitive. Hey, which means that, hey, some of us are extremely intuitive, like we just know, right? We don't need to think that much, right? Like, hey, I make quick observations about what's going on and I react, right? It doesn't require all this thinking, right? Some people have that sort of type 1. Some people are type 2. Processes are slow, deliberative, and analytic. You get, I would say kind of the more, it's so funny, it's tricky. I think we start off as fast, autonomous, intuitive, because we kind of think we know it all. And almost the more you learn, the slower the processes get because you're trying to think like a scientist with everything. Right? You have everything, oh, this is just a general statement, I can't really apply to everybody. You analyze everything people say, you kind of critique things because you want to be empirical about stuff. And I think towards the end, as you get older and you learn all of this stuff, you kind of go back to like, no, it actually is quick, right? You kind of like, hey, you have to generalize because too much thinking requires too much time, in which case it's inefficient. It's also inefficient. You're like, yeah, it could be right, possibly, right? In psychology, we have heuristics and algorithms. You say the human mind, we think in shortcuts, right? Algorithms give you the correct answer 100% of the time, but it takes too long. And our mind doesn't work that way, right? So we think most of the time in shortcuts, fast, autonomous. Where's the hot sauce in the grocery store? Where's the hot sauce located? What aisle? Condiments? Anyone else? Right, the point is nobody knows. So but for shortcuts, we're thinking, hey, go to condiments. Boom, it's not there. It's not in condiments. Where do we? Oh, ethnic foods. Right? You go there, you're like, where's it? It's not in here either. Right? Right, so I always think that. Or we say, hey, I could have just went and asked the person to work here. You're like, that's too far. I'm not walking on. I'm not doing that. I'm by myself. Right? It's just kind of a classic example on how we have a preference to think of our own shortcuts to come up with solutions. Right? So we're all kind of a little bit type 1. We get all this knowledge and education. We do become a little bit slow, deliberative. And then past that, you kind of come back to this. I believe at some point. You're like, nah, things just things are general and generic most of the time. Right? The shallow way of thinking, but it's probably more realistic how the world works. Multi-attribute attitude model, right? We say, hey, salient. Salient means most important, right? Salient is importance. Our important beliefs, right? We have a hierarchy of beliefs. What's most important is probably what we gravitate towards first, right? So importance or relevance. But things like object, attribute, linkages, how important is the object and its attributes? So maybe kind of how we think about them. Then we have the evaluation from there. All right, let's see this. Alex's college division, right? We're looking at beliefs, right? Here's the attributes, the importance, and these, I guess, are different divisions of the college. So we're looking at, hey, the belief on what's most important. Is it the academic reputation? Right? We say importance is a 6. This one kind of confused me. I don't want to confuse you too. We would say, hey, importance is all women, 7. Cost is a 4 of importance, maybe because you care about quality more. Proximity to home, not that important, right? It's a great school, you don't mind driving. Athletics, you don't play sports, you're not athletic, you care less, right? So you put that as, because really I think this is on the scale from 1 to 10. Party atmosphere, 2. Library facilities, 5, right? Maybe you need it, maybe you don't, maybe you need it for studying or Wi-Fi, things of that nature. So let's just say we put these at different sort of people, right? So different people have sort of different attitudes towards these beliefs. This person, Warren, academic reputation, 8, all women, right? Probably a woman, Warren. 9, importance, cost, doesn't matter. Proximity, not that much. Athletics, not that much. This person could probably be an athlete, right? Party atmosphere is 7, library facility is 7, et cetera, right? So actually, these aren't people, I think these are actual colleges, the level of importance for the different colleges. Some marketing applications, right? We say capitalize on relative advantage, so we can figure out what people's hierarchy of importances are, we can capitalize that one for a school. You have to think what are the strong suits. Some schools have law schools, so they focus on the law. Some have medical schools, they first focus on healthcare. Some is about athletics. You think of Duke, right? University of Michigan. You think of that's importance, and that's how they kind of capitalize on relative advantage, getting money and admissions from students. And then we strengthen perceived linkages, right? The perception of what you think is great about the school. Then we add new attribute and influence competitors' ratings. So let me ask you, maybe we can talk about it within our groups. But I want you to think of something, right, that has, whether it be a product or a person, a company, or even an ideology, an idea that has recently changed your attitude about something. That's recently changed your attitude about something. So I want you to think of your prior attitude, your before, and your after sort of position or attitude on that. So maybe bounce some ideas around with each other. I'll let you do that for about 3 minutes with your groups. And you can maybe come up with something on your own. So, right? Yeah, think of something that's changed your attitude about something. Product, brand, company, person, idea, something on social media, right? You think of anything, something recent. Super Bowl, Kendrick, Kanye, Trump, Elon, Kamala, Biden, Obama, Pope, your mom, your dad, a book, a movie that you watch, a documentary, company that you bought from.
I would overreact to a lot of those things. And sometimes when you're so emotional, you respond emotionally when not rationally. So it's always, it's like, you know, you have to accept what you can't control. And that's something that kind of changed my perspective about how I react to certain situations. Like in class today, my teacher had, oh, what's the time because I came to class late? We'll talk about it. If you look like on YouTube and you just like listen to like the different, I listened to it yesterday. What's it called? Different like behaviors or concepts of stoicism. It'll kind of tell you like in certain situations how much
thoughts on this? Come up with-
Well, for me, I thought about like, well, originally I thought like anime was like I thought it was a bit weird, like just because you see like all like these people doing like I don't know, like the memes or whatever. But like once I actually like watched it, I actually like enjoyed it. I think because of like the themes that like anime like tells you or whatever.
Yeah, okay, so anime, right? Like, before maybe you thought it was a little goofy, right? And then you're like, I'm not watching Dragon Ball Z, right? And I'm not watching Demon Slayer and all that stuff, right? But then you watch it and you're like, oh man, I see the value. They're talking about love, power, death, being misled by authorities, all sorts of really deep things, right? About life in general. So it's changed your attitude about that. Over here, anybody? Yeah.
Well, I work at Target, and first I was like, damn, I work at Target, I know everything happening with the guy and stuff, like being rolled back, whatever going on, like I work here now. I don't know.
So you feel like a sense of almost guilt, right?
Yeah, I'm
Like you felt like, oh man, Target, it's like Target, right, is the greatest. They don't have any issue. They support everybody, right? They got great products, I love the store, curbside, bringing stuff out, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh crap, they really didn't give a crap about, the Hispanic culture or employees or something. Like it's all about a buck, Target. Now you probably feel a sense of guilt, change your attitude about Target. Anybody else? Over here.
Oh, I was telling them about that I've seen in TikTok, in the Super Bowl, there was an ad of gold foam that people got grossed out about it, cause it was just too much, and then at the end, it's like, let's go thumbs. It is thumbs? Thumbs? Thumbs, I don't know how to pronounce it, my bad. But it was kinda gross to see it,
Mm-hmm.
cause, the actor of the ad was like, I don't know how to say it, but it was really cute to see.
Okay. They're like, kind of misogynistic or something, right? Like kind of creepy in some way. Okay, over here.
So I was having like, like high emotions, and I had called my aunt, cause that's who I was called for like advice. And she had told me about, stoicism, and how like, you can't control, like, the environment around you, you can only control yourself. So like, I was listening to like, like a podcast or something about that,
Yeah.
about like shifting your behavior and like your reactions to not be so emotional and more rational. And that's
Yeah.
just something that like, I feel like really changed like my perspective on like the environment around me and like how I wanna be perceived, cause I don't wanna come off a certain way, in certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan. I listen to that stuff all the time. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, all the great Stoic philosophers, right? So for those of you who've never really looked into Stoicism, please do. I think it's very influential on how you think for those of you who have anxiety. It's probably the ultimate philosophy to relieve stress and anxiety about life and things that happen in life, right? The basic principle, you are only in control of your own thoughts and minds. At this particular moment, you are in control of nothing else, nothing more. You're barely in control of yourself, right? Yes, so Stoicism. All right, great. Let me see. Something that we could quickly do. We could do this as individuals. I want you to write down from this same sort of graph right here on your sort of this attribute model, right? Your beliefs about these attributes. I want you to apply it to this university. So, right, so before you came here, I want you to look at all these items and write from 1 to 10 the importance this was to you. With the exception of all women, just put maybe diversity. Right? You just put like diversity. And then I want you to compare it to another university that you considered going to, right? And do the ranking. And I want you, and then after that, we'll kind of maybe assess why you feel that way. Like, why do you have that attitude about particular things? So give me about 3 minutes. Come up with this list for this university, the importance versus another university that you actually consider. Because I know you consider more than just this one, right? So I give you about 2 minutes, just write that down and we can kind of talk about it. Because remember, this is your belief, right? What do you believe about the academic reputation here, right? Right? What do you believe about the cost relative to your income or whatever? Proximity to home, athletic, party atmosphere, library facilities.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, have a good weekend. See you Tuesday. Yeah, and if you wanna share what the other school is, you can, but if you don't wanna share it, you don't have to. Bless you. This sort of historical narrative on where we came up with bless you, people sneeze. Anyone ever heard of it? Hmm? Why we say bless you, people sneeze? No? Back then, the bubonic plague, I believe it was Pope Gregory, was around that time. And like one of the symptoms of having the Black Death, they call it, or bubonic plague, was like people would sneeze all the time. That was like early symptoms. So really, like if you sneeze a lot, it kind of indicated that you had the plague, and really you were a goner. Like if you caught the plague, you probably would die in probably a few weeks or even less than that, right? So basically, the Pope used to walk the streets of Rome with this little cancer thing, right? Sprinkle holy oil on people. And he would do that around people who were sneezing and say, bless you. Because in essence, you were going to die pretty soon. So it was always almost some sort of blessing sort of ritual that we have. And it's stuck around today. It's been around for that long. We still sing bless you, like as if we're going to die from sneezing or something, right? Okay, let's share. Hey, give us your list. What's your list? And if you wanna tell us what the other school was.
The other school was Dominican.
Alright, which, Dominican's my home school, right? Dominican, I teach at Dominican, that's really my home school. Go ahead.
So for academic, I put them both at like 5, cause I mean, it was important, but it wasn't at the same time. It
Mhm.
really wasn't. The cost, I mean, it was a 10 for importance, cause I wanted to go somewhere where it was like the most affordable. Proximity to home, I wanted somewhere, like, it was also a 10 because I wanted to go somewhere that was close. Athletics is like, I don't really care much about it, so I put like a 2. Atmosphere, is like, just a 1. And then the.
Because you probably commute, it's not
Yeah,
like you're
yeah.
living on campus and
Yeah.
worried about it, okay.
And then the facilities, I mean, didn't really matter to me, it was 3.
That's three. So your attitude was like, hey, I need affordable
Yeah.
education that's close, right?
Yes.
That's somewhat close. Okay, so, proximity, so convenience and cost. Alright, can you share anything?
Academic reputation at 6.
Okay.
We had to try between a lot of different
What was the other,
university, but in
what was the other choice?
it was in the USA. There was one school in Louisiana.
Louisiana?
one.
Do you know if it was near like New Orleans?
What?
Was it near, like the city of New
Yeah,
Orleans?
like near. Not
Okay.
not really. Yeah.
Okay.
One in Boston, but then we also had the choice between other countries.
Okay.
And then cost was a 7 for me.
Mhm.
Proximity just 1.
Yeah, cause you're coming from so far.
Athletics just 3, so it's good to see that we are not in the crowd.
Okay.
Then party atmosphere just 2 and very facilitative.
Okay. Alright, great. Who wants to go and share? Who wants to share? Go ahead.
The other school that I was, deciding on was North Park University. Both of them had the same ranking, so, the first one was cost, because I wanted to look for affordability and like for the financial purposes. And then it was, after that, it's proximity to home, because North Park was actually closer to my home than CUC, but I still chose CUC.
Okay.
It was also academic reputation, because it was more like, which one would be best for the major that I want, and like if I wanted minor or something else.
Okay.
The fourth one was athletics, because I was interested in dance, and I did join the dance team at CUC, but I'm not in it anymore. And the fifth one was diversity, because I wanted to see how diverse the school was, because I came from a diverse high school.
So
A
that was
really diverse
important.
high school.
That was important.
That was like important for me to choose too.
Okay.
And then I guess the party atmosphere too, I was kind of wondering about that. And then the library facility was like,
Yeah, like I'll do my work in my house or Starbucks or something. Okay. Cool. Anyone else want to share? Kristen.
For the most part, the most important thing for me was the cost. It needed to be affordable. And then ultimately, my final 2 colleges that I was choosing between were Concordia, Wisconsin, and here. And I had a much better financial aid package here, which led to me going here. And everything aside from that was mostly negligible. I thought diversity was kind of important, but aside from costs, I wasn't too worried about the rest of it.
What about the proximity? Wisconsin and here is, some distance.
Both pretty far away, but I didn't really want to be that close to home anyways.
Okay. Yeah, close enough to get back, right?
Yeah.
For either one, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, excellent. Alright. Because we're running short on time, let's stop and have our little blurbs. Wanna come up first?
Okay, so me, I went to the grocery store a few days ago, and I just noticed that for people from another country, it's a lot different when you look at the price. For yes, there is a tax that is not included, but also us in France, we have everything like we can see here. We can see the price per kilogram and liters for everything. So when you buy, for example, a shampoo, you can see like with the different size, sometimes there is a difference for the price and everything. And here, you don't have that. So it's difficult when you go in the grocery store because you have different packaging and we're just like, well, what is the much cheaper? Because we didn't know what to buy, and I was just like, well, let's see from the liter what's the price, and you don't have that.
So in America, it's cheaper to, it's easier to kind of fool us
Yeah.
if we make the package slightly smaller, but even leaving the price the same,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, oh, we're getting less for.
And just for you have like some very small packaging, and after you're very big,
Mhm.
so it's confusing for us because us we have just medium size, and here is very big. So we're just like, well, what is the most cheaper, the big one or the smallest
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's confusing.
And then in France, do they include the tax?
Yeah.
So the value added tax, the VAT,
Yes.
usually, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But us, we're like, depending on what state you're in, like, Illinois and Chicago is the highest in the country for sales tax. So some people go to Indiana to buy things cheaper and then drive over here, So it's by state,
Yeah. As well, it's a smaller country, that's the United
Mhm.
States, so yes, we just have the tax in it, so yeah, it's confusing when you go groceries, but after
Which grocery store would you go to?
Target.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you kind of think of that cultural aspect. You're like, well, okay, in Europe or in France, you're giving more power to the customer. But here in America, we give so much power to the companies, right? They can kind of deceive us really quickly and like we won't even know, right? Just because it's about profits.
So as we know, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so I wanted to make something inspired off that. So I'll be talking about Valentine's Day impact on consumer behavior. So there has been an increase of sales for Valentine's Day candy and items, and there will be more because they will be discounted after Valentine's Day. So, also Valentine's Day is a busy day in which a lot of consumers will take their dates out, a little fancy restaurant or on the casual going out. And then on Valentine's Day, it really brings consumerism to the point in which people want to express love through expensive gifts that isn't needed. Or they could go for a little bit of the lower prices, but a majority still spend.
Do you feel that Valentine's Day, okay, so we got Sweetest Day, we got Valentine's Day. Like, Valentine's Day is about men buying women's stuff, you think?
It
Or is
goes
it like it goes
It
either
goes
way?
both ways. I feel, for me personally, it goes either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, if that's the case, then, companies can kind of guilt and shame people to make sure that they're not being cheap, right?
Yeah.
Like they can rack up the prices at the restaurant, but enough people are gonna buy it, right? No one's gonna argue this.
And then there would be videos like of the couples making their little Valentine's Day basket.
Yeah.
And like inspiring others or like kind of in a way guilt tripping them if they're
Yeah,
not buying.
yeah.
There has been like reels, like saying, we can still go to the Dollar Tree section, still get her something. I get him something.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah. that's
Okay,
it.
alright, excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Let's go. Alrighty, alright everyone, that's it for today, I'll see you on